Hi everyone, welcome back. You can see that the car is still on jack stands and not doing anything. And that's because it rained. If you're just joining me, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Please subscribe if you can. That way we can have a giant faceless corporation pay the bills on my race car instead of me. Anyway, tell your friends as well, see if they want to subscribe, and share it as much as you can, because word of mouth is the best way to get anything spread around and get as many subscribers in as I can, because I've tried the whole advertising thing and it just does not work. It doesn't reach the right audience. I'm too small. There's not enough algorithm for me around, apparently. So anyway, it rained, like I said in the opener. So we have another week to get our stuff together, which kind of already together, you know. So I've been kind of piddling around the garage and not really doing anything, because what am I going to do? I mean, the car was ready. All I had to do was stick it on scales and get a couple jugs of gas and stick her in the trailer. So I said, okay, well, maybe we can find something to do. Maybe we can put together some spare parts and be even more ready than we were before. And maybe I can get through doing a couple more things on the car that can make us maybe have a little less issue. Maybe do a little bit more maintenance and see what we can come up with. I got to walk over the tire shavings because I took my practice set of tires out and cleaned them all off with the heat gun and a scraper to try to size them better, because my God, they were covered in stuff. It was throwing off my measurements. So I got to clean that up. I don't think I'll do that to these tires because they're fine. They're new enough. I did go in here and I greased all of the bushings, not bushings, but ball joints, steering arms, tie rod ends. I put some grease in the sway bar area so it has a little bit less metal on metal friction. Anything like steering or suspension wise, I put a grease gun too. Um, so I'm going to probably hop under the middle of the car, double check the transmission fluid. I'm going to also go through and make sure all of the exhaust bolts and nuts are all tight. I'm going to make sure the rear end's tight. We're going to go through and make sure that the brakes are all bled. And then I'm going to go over here to the gear sets, and I think I'm going to start putting, well, there it is over there. But I'm going to start putting together my spare, at least one of my spare 9 inches, just in case. If I lunch this rear end at practice, I don't have anything set up as a spare to go again. So I got to come up with something real quick. And having stuff in reserves and doing a lot of maintenance is going to help no matter what you do. If you don't do maintenance, you'll lose a race because of it. You might not win a race because of maintenance, but you won't lose one if you do it. You know what I mean? So I've had problems with cars just having problems that were easily fixable if I just took the time to do it. So I always grease stuff. I always go through my ball joints. I always go through my wheel bearings. Anything that can be maintained, I go through it incessantly to make sure that it's got no problems whatsoever. So that being said, yeah, I know that the rear end that I put in this car is brand new because I built it myself. And I looked at it and it looks like it's wearing just fine. That doesn't mean that there might not be some kind of an issue with the parts that were created. So what I need to do is I need to go and I need to finish up with the Ford 9-inch rear chuck that's sitting over here by my hand, and one of the Ford 9-inch rears that I put together, if you would actually see it. There you go. And just at least have something in reserves. I know I have a transmission in the trailer that's rebuilt and never run. I put grease in it, or oil in it, I mean, and it's never run. But if I need that, I can throw that in. I don't have a spare rear. I have spare everything else, but I don't have that. So why don't we get to work on that so that at least we can be prepared? By the way, a little scheduling note if you're planning on going to the track, because I will put this out before we go racing. We were supposed to run on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday was just a practice day. If you wanted to show up at all, it's a separate fee. Saturday, Sunday, you could do individual days or pay one price and go all weekend. I was going to use Friday to go practice, and I didn't even have to be on track Saturday at all if I didn't want to. Now, with the rain out, they've moved it to Thursday, Friday, Saturday because it's Easter on Sunday. So they don't want to run Easter Sunday. That's fine. Let people be with their families if they like. That's perfect. But now it's, like I said, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday is the practice day. Friday is what Saturday was going to be. Sunday is now on Saturday. And I know it's confusing. But it doesn't look good right now on the weather. I know it's a week in advance for Thursday. Thursday looks a little rainy. So if it rains out Thursday, I can still practice Friday, but if something happens, I won't have a lot of time to fix it. I was kind of banking on practice Friday. If something happens or I need to make big adjustments or whatever, I could have come back Saturday or even Friday night into Saturday. If I needed Saturday, I had a spare day. Now I don't have a spare day. So if something happens on Saturday when I'm practicing, which I'll probably find a street stock tour or practice or whatever, I can just go out in that. I'm going to go practice it. If something breaks, now I have like no time. So if I was going to take time to prepare a rear end in that spare day, I don't have that anymore. So during the week, now I've got to put that together. So that's what I'm doing that for. All right, Ford 9-inch chuck that I run is ready. There's really nothing special. I know that the spool that I put in looks pretty special. I had an open carrier in here, and I wanted to put a locking one in there because how do you make a... Anyway, I don't want to deal with an open carrier right now. Anyway, yeah, it's nothing special. It's literally nothing's lightened, nothing's race prepped. It's the cheapest I could buy from Rock Auto. I mean, look, it's steel, It's not aluminum, it's steel. This is the cheapest Dana ring and pinion set that I could get and the cheapest spool off of Rock Auto. The carrier came with one of the rear ends that I bought, and the yoke did as well. It's got the same U-joint as what's factory on here. I think it's 1 1/8 inch or whatever the heck it is. So this is ready to go. I can go plant that into a rear. However, what I want to do is I want to try like machining something for the carrier housing. I wanted to see if I could drill a hole and tap it for like a 1/4 bolt, so that when you go to take this thing out and put another one like on the other side, and when you go to take it out, because I don't use a gasket, I don't have any, so I just use Gasket Maker. By the way, if you use like the heavy duty silicone, like Right Stuff, oh geez, I'm losing everything, like Right Stuff or the black adhesive silicone, this will never come off. So just, a random gasket sealer, doesn't need to be fancy, something that won't glue it into place. But what I want to do is I want to kind of drill a hole, tap it, so that when you can go to take this thing out, if you take it out, you can just run the bolt in through those threads and it's going to press and pull the whole housing out away from the gasket. That way you're not sitting there with a chisel or screwdriver and trying to get it off. It's just such a pain, especially if you use RTV. But I was thinking about trying that. Maybe I'll do that later. But building these Ford 9-inch rears is so much nicer than doing a hypoid style, like, where the gear is in the rear end, like on a 7.5 GM or a Dana or whatever. But having a rear axle where you have a dropout housing is so much nicer because you don't have to put shims in or press fit a whole bunch of stuff. You basically can just bolt and unbolt it, and the carrier has little adjusters on it that you can just turn for your, side to side. And if you need to shim the pinion, you can just go and unbolt a bunch of bolts here and just put shims in there if it's not completely perfect. It's just so much easier, my God. And yeah, it's a whole ton beefier, especially if you're using a 602 crate engine or whatever. It's gonna hold up to 350 horsepower. It's not a big deal, and it'll last forever. I mean, I had that rear in my car for like 2 years, and it barely looks worn in. I mean, it is tough as nails. Plus, I kind of like having it so that I don't have C-clip axles, because if you have disc brakes in the back of one of these things, you go in the corner, the C-clip has just a hair of end play, and it just moves back and forth, and you got to pump the brakes to go in. Let me just be honest with you. But anyway, it's not that bad once you get used to it, but whatever. It's all personal preference. You can be fast with one of these rears. You can be fast with a Ford 9-inch. Whatever you feel like. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Next, I got to get under the car and start checking out fluid levels. I haven't checked the fluid level in the transmission. I don't think there's any reason to believe that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm going to check it out anyway. And I got one of these. I don't think it's Lucas because it won't come out of here. I think it's just gear oil in a Lucas bottle with a pump on it. And the pump, when you're under a car, is super nice. You can just pump your gear oil up. And I don't do anything fancy. I don't try to do, trick stuff with my stock rear axle or Saginaw / Muncie transmissions. They, from the factory, say run gear oil. Okay, I'll put gear oil in it. I've known some guys to put like ATF in a Saginaw or something, and I'm like, well, I hope you like buying new ones because that's just going to kill it. Maybe it makes you a little bit faster, but it ain't worth it in the long run, to be honest with you. If you want any speed, okay, maybe buy synthetic oil. I don't know. I've been fast with everything, and I don't want to try dumb stuff that's going to maybe pick me up a little bit, but it'll just blow my transmission up. So I don't do a lot of weirdo trick stuff. I don't have the money for it. I need stuff to last and go fast, so do what you can, I guess. Anyway, I got to get under here and get to work. This is basically the me talking episode, I guess, but enough. I got to get to work. Very, very glad that we got underneath that car because I checked the fluid in the transmission and it was totally fine. But I looked over at the exhaust and I noticed that some of the clamps were completely loose. Like some of the nuts had backed all the way off, and I had to tighten at least 2 or 3 different exhaust clamps from the header to the mid pipe or whatever, and from the mufflers to the mid pipes. It was just, I did not want a muffler falling off on the racetrack. That's for dang sure. I especially don't want nuts falling off and landing under my back tire and puncturing that. So Everything under there is now tight again. And man, I'm glad I did that. A lot of the problem is that you can go through your car with what you perceive to be a fine-tooth comb and you can still miss things. So it's worth it to do it multiple times. If there's a bolt on the car, you put a wrench on it or a socket, whatever the case may be. But I'm really glad that we did that. And maybe this rain out wasn't such a bad thing. I probably would have nut and bolted the car to begin with last week if I had the chance, but I'm glad that I maybe had the extra week to do that. So that's all set. I'll probably take a quick look-see through the front suspension. I know I've had a wrench on all of that. I'll probably do it again anyway. But other than that, there ain't a heck of a lot left. I've already vacuumed the car out. I've already gone through the interior and cleaned that up. I've cleaned out everything else I could possibly clean. But this is a good example of make sure you go through all your stuff and make sure you got spares too, because boy, this could be bad. But yeah, we'll find something else to do and I'll come back to you. Took a few minutes to think about it, and then I saw the pile of stuff in the way of my rear axle, and I'm thinking maybe I don't want to quite put it together because it's going to be really, really heavy if I try to put it together and then put it in the car if I need to. I'm thinking maybe I'll just leave it apart because then it's just 10 times easier to put into the car. I can just put the housing in, put the chuck in the front, put the axles in, throw some oil in it while it's already bolted into the car, throw the brakes on it, all that stuff. But that's only if I actually need it. So I think for now I'm going to leave the rear alone and maybe just work on cleaning up the garage, but y'all don't really need to watch that. See, I'm kind of in a tough situation here because usually I plan out what to do on videos so that I can give you at least a video a week. And I had that planned out. Mother Nature had other plans. So now it's basically like, okay, you just watch me rebuild a Ford 9-inch rear chuck, and that's pretty much it. And sometimes that stinks because that's just all you can really do. You can only just roll with the punches, and this is what rolling with the punches with a race car looks like. This is the reality of racing. Sometimes even the weather doesn't go your way. It is what it is, and I hate that saying, and everybody I know hates that saying, but there's no more true statement than that. I can offer you a couple things, though. I've got these doors, and they are off my car from... That one's a little ugly, but, you know, whatever. But if anybody wants those for wall hangers for their shop, comment below or DM me on whatever social I have. I might even sign them for you, but if you're in the Connecticut or Northeast region and you want one of these, let me know. I guess all I can really say is use a rain out to your advantage, even if you really don't have anything to do. There's always something you can find to do. And I figured a quick little video to touch base with you all would be a little bit helpful. Maybe I gave you some ideas. You know, maybe you need to put together some spares. Use this time to do that. Maybe you need to get under the car and check for bolts, which we found loose under the car. Use this time to do that. It's a great opportunity for you to improve your program and build inventory and maybe even do a little maintenance while you're at it. So again, there wasn't a lot of live action in this, but again, kind of got forced into that because of the weather. So again, use rainouts to your advantage anytime you can. Prep your practice tires. Nut and bolt the car. Put together a whole bunch of spare parts. Get yourself ready, because anytime you can get yourself at least a little bit further ahead as a lone wolf or someone who doesn't have a team to really work on your stuff every day of the week, or, you know, if you're doing this on your own like me, use whatever time you get to your advantage because it'll help out in the long run. Today was proof of that. So again, I figured I'd touch base with you even though there wasn't a heck of a lot going on. But please subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to try to get this thing up to actually make some money on ad revenue so that I don't have to pay for racing on my own, because that sucks. And I want to be able to entertain people. So I got to have that to make that. And I have a lot of projects in the pipeline. I really do. And a lot of them aren't even racing related. So please tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody you know and love who might actually enjoy race cars, regular cars, mechanics, engineering, whatever the case may be, because I just want to have a good time and take you all along for the ride with me. So thank you all for watching. Sorry for the short episode, but maybe it's a little bit refreshing this week, and I greatly appreciate it.